To everyone who is listening or joining us and viewing, thank you for relying on Two Rivers Title to be your trusted source for up-to-the-minute information on all of the new technologies that are affecting our combined businesses. We decided to do this quick Q&A video because we have heard some rather creative interpretations of e-closing practices lately and wanted to have our experts share some light on the information that may be more fiction than fact. Today, I am joined by Two Rivers Title CEO, Matthew Cohen, who has been actively involved in advancing remote online notarization in New Jersey. Also with me is Executive Vice President of Operations, Stephanie Benedetto. Matthew, can we ask you to start us off with just a quick explanation as to who the players are in the e-closing world?
Of course, and thank you, Sharon. The players are primarily the lenders, the banks and the mortgage companies, followed by the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all the GSAs. It's the whole secondary market. They have to be comfortable with electronic notes, electronic mortgages, electronic closings in general. Now, they're all moving in that direction. You know, last month, over 300 closings were done, fully electronic, remote online notarization, the works. But that's a drop in the bucket for the entire real estate community. But it is moving in the right direction. Now, as far as the rest of the players, you have to have the state legislatures on board. Over half or approximately half of the states have already passed some sort of legislation. It's not all in effect, but over the next few months, several more states' legislation will become live. The title underwriters have to be on board with this. The county clerks who implement the legislation have to be on board with this. So there's a lot of people that have to be comfortable with the process. All the pieces of the puzzle have been put in place already. Just a question of how fast we get there.
Thank you. So Stephanie, let me ask you, what is the difference between RIN and RON?
Well, RIN, otherwise known as remote ink signed notarization, as opposed to RON, which is remote online notarization, is that with RON, everything is electronic. The borrower does not see a piece of paper. The documents are delivered electronically. The customer applies their signature electronically. The notary signature and stamp are applied electronically. The attendance, the session itself is audio visual, and that's done electronically. And very important is that the borrower's identity is verified electronically. With RIN, the borrower is putting ink to paper so that the documents are being printed or sent to them in advance. They're signing the actual paper while the notary observes. They then return the documents, and the notary stamp and seal is applied in ink. The attendance is electronic or audiovisual, and the ID verification definitely needs to be done with some kind of multi-factor authentication. And I can explain that a little bit later.
So what are you seeing more of right now, in New Jersey anyway, RIN or RON?
Right now, we see a lot of attempts at doing RIN closings. We will be doing them and do them in complete compliance with our underwriters, our lenders, and our state requirements. The RIN closing is more common because most lenders aren't completely on board, or they don't have platforms for full RON closings.
And I understand that in many of the options, the lenders are still looking for a wet signature. What does that mean?
A wet signature is a signature where the signer actually puts ink to paper. So it essentially, it's when a person literally marks the document.
And which documents normally at the moment are still requiring the wet signature?
Anything that needs to be notarized, the notes unless a lender has the e-note vault, which is a separate, issue, but it's the documents that need to be notarized and including the note. The lender really decides which documents need to be ink or wet signed. There's a platform that some lenders are using called a hybrid closing, where most of the documents are electronically signed in advance, and then only certain documents are sent to be actually ink or wet signed in the presence of a notary. Again, that can be done by RIN. Again, as long as you've got lender authorization, you need to make sure that the clerk is on board with it. You need to make sure that your underwriter is on board with it. You need to make sure that it's being properly recorded and stored. And you need to make sure that the borrower's or signer's identity is validated.
Thank you, Stephanie. So Matthew, why is it important for a settlement company to be RON ready?
Because the marketplace is changing. We know what's going to happen. If we project out 5 years from now, most closings, if not all of them, are going to be taking place on computer screens or tablets. The idea that we're going to still be using paper and people driving around the state to go to an office to sign something in person just is not realistic. The major lenders have already started shifting over to a portion of their closing packages being signed electronically prior to the day of closing or the morning of closing. Now, from the perspective of 30 years in the business, I've watched how closing packages have gotten bigger and smaller through the years. And really, there's only one document that has to be notarized. That's the mortgage. And I've seen very small closing packages where there's only a handful of documents, and the mortgage and note being the two most critical. eVault system, there are standards in place now. So the banks are moving in that direction. They're testing it out. Different lenders are slowly moving over towards e-notes. And the e-mortgages are dependent on the recording systems in the various counties in the different states. So everyone is getting up to speed. It's important for us to be ready because the change is coming quickly.
I read recently, and I believe you may have actually sent this to me from the Mortgage Bankers Association and also Alta, that this type of remote and e-closing provides a much higher customer service experience for buyers and borrowers. Are you seeing the same thing?
Absolutely. And doesn't that make sense? Wouldn't you like to be able to sign the documents in the comfort of your home or the home you're about to purchase, and you're there and you're ready to pop that champagne cork the moment you've hit that send button? We're already doing closings due to the pandemic with everybody remoting in. So the attorneys and the realtors are there talking to their clients, but the individuals who are signing the package, they're alone in the room with our notary right next door in the next room, ready to take documents back and forth, checking their IDs, but limiting the contact. So people are already getting comfortable. The consumer is ready. They want this. They want their life to be easier. We all want our lives to be a little bit easier. So I think that it's our job to be ready when the banks are ready.